Imagine wearing a mask every single day for 12 years, hiding not just your face, but your entire identity. Why would someone do that? Was it guilt, fear, or something much darker? This is the story of a life shrouded in secrecy. A true crime tale that starts with a seemingly ordinary person and ends in a series of chilling revelations. The man behind the mask wasn't just running from the world. He was running from his past. His neighbors thought he was eccentric. His coworkers assumed he was battling insecurities. But no one truly knew the horrifying reason he couldn't let anyone see his face. It took more than a decade, a random slip-up, and one determined investigator to finally unravel the truth. What was he hiding, and why did he believe his face held the key to everything? Stay with us to uncover this shocking story. For years, the man's mask became his defining feature. He lived a quiet life, moving from town to town, avoiding questions and close relationships. People whispered about him, speculating about scars, a tragic accident, or even a rare medical condition. But he never offered explanations. He kept to himself, polite but distant, always ensuring he stayed out of the spotlight. Beneath the mask, however, was a man burdened by secrets. There were moments when he seemed on edge, glancing over his shoulder, startled by small noises. His behavior wasn't just odd, it was suspicious. Those who encountered him couldn't help but wonder what he was so desperate to hide. As the years went by, rumors began to swirl. A landlord once found an eviction notice on his door, along with a pile of unopened letters. One letter, torn and forgotten, would later become a crucial clue. But at the time, no one suspected it wasn't until a small-town journalist, Sarah, stumbled across his story that the pieces of the puzzle began to come together. She'd first seen him at a gas station, his mask catching her eye. It wasn't a medical-grade mask or something casual. It was more deliberate, almost theatrical. Intrigued, Sarah started asking around. Locals shared odd stories. A man who paid in cash, never stayed anywhere longer than a year, and avoided cameras like the plague. The deeper Sarah dug, the stranger it got. An old landlord remembered him receiving a package years ago with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, burned around the edges, of a woman. Another neighbor recalled overhearing him muttering late at night, pacing his apartment as if rehearsing a confession. When Sarah finally tracked down the torn letter from his past, what she read was haunting. It hinted at a crime, something he had been running from for over a decade. But what crime, and why the mask, just how deep the mystery went? Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the man's secret was bigger than anyone realized. She pieced together every lead she had, old receipts, scraps of overheard conversations, and a growing list of places he'd lived. What she found was a pattern. Each time he moved, it followed an incident. A local break-in here, a fire there, or a missing person case that was never solved. The coincidences were too many to ignore. She decided to follow him, tailing him discreetly one rainy evening as he walked through the quiet streets of town. He carried a small bag, his head low, the mask as present as ever. Her heart raced as he disappeared into an old, abandoned house. Inside, Sarah discovered walls covered with newspaper clippings, stories of missing people, mysterious accidents, and unsolved crimes. Just as she was about to take a closer look, the floor creaked beneath her. She froze. The man had heard her. Sarah held her breath as the man's footsteps echoed through the house. The room was dimly lit, shadows flickering as if the walls themselves were alive. She ducked behind an old piece of furniture, heart pounding so loudly she feared he'd hear it. The man stepped into the room, his masked face scanning the space. For a moment, he stood still, as though sensing he wasn't alone. Just when Sarah thought he might leave, he spoke. His voice was calm, almost eerie. "Whoever you are, you've already seen too much." The words sent a chill down her spine. She didn't move, hoping he wouldn't find her. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of searching further, he pulled a small box from a hidden compartment in the wall. From her hiding spot, Sarah saw him open it, revealing a stack of photographs and a blood-stained object she couldn't quite make out. Before she could process what she'd just witnessed, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The sound shattered the silence. The man whipped around, his masked face locking onto her hiding spot. Sarah's secret investigation had just crossed a dangerous line, and now there was no turning back. The man lunged towards Sarah's hiding spot, but she sprang to her feet and bolted. She dashed through the crumbling house, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight. Behind her, his heavy footsteps grew louder. Her only thought was escape, but as she turned a corner, he grabbed her arm. The force sent them both crashing to the ground, the box spilling its contents across the floor. Photos fluttered everywhere, images of the same woman, her face hauntingly familiar. Sarah recognized her from an old missing person case she'd written about years ago. The blood-stained object, now clearly a small knife, lay among the scattered pictures. "Please, just listen," the man pleaded, his voice cracking. "I didn't hurt her. I tried to save her." His mask was ripped in the struggle, revealing a face lined with fear and guilt. "They're the ones who did this. They're still out there." Before Sarah could question him, distant sirens cut through the night. The police, tipped off by her earlier research, were closing in. As they surrounded the house, the man surrendered without resistance, muttering, "You'll never find them without me." Sarah thought it was over, but weeks later, she received an anonymous envelope. Inside was a single photo of the missing woman, alive and smiling, taken long after her supposed disappearance. The mystery, it seemed, was far from solved. In the weeks that followed, Sarah couldn't shake the image of the photo she'd received. The woman everyone thought was a victim might still be alive, but where was she? And who were they the man had spoken about? Despite his arrest, the case raised more questions than answers. The police uncovered connections between the man and several unsolved crimes, but his role remained murky. Was he a perpetrator, a witness, or just another pawn in something much larger? Sarah's story spread quickly, captivating true crime enthusiasts and sparking online theories. Some believed the man was a misunderstood vigilante. Others thought he was covering for someone else. But Sarah couldn't ignore the final words scrawled on the back of the photo she'd been sent. Asterisk, "Find me before they do." Asterisk. The man in the mask may have been caught, but the truth? That was still out there, waiting to be uncovered.